been a favorite icebreaker question. What would you choose for your very last meal? I wonder now if we might need to adopt a variation of that to get a conversation going. So maybe for your next Zoom meeting or something, try this. What's going to be your first meal after quarantine? Or what was the last meal you had outside of your house before quarantine? I don't know about you, but those are the meals I keep thinking of lately. Back to the last times that I got to spend time with people outside of my immediate family in public places. And there are several that stand out for me back around like the first week of March because I was still traveling then. I was in New York for a speaking gig and I went to dinner with a friend from college that I hadn't seen in years. And then I was in Nashville for work and got to go to dinner with my brother. After that, I was at a conference and went to lunch with a colleague. And then that last Friday night before everything kind of shut down, we had some friends over to our house for a cookout. And at each of those tables, not only was I eating with other people, we were passing things around all over the place. Where my friend took me in New York, it was one of those small plate situations where we pretty much ordered one of everything on the menu and shared. When I ate with my brother, we split a pizza and a bottle of wine, and then I think we put all of our leftovers together in the same box. The barbecue place where I ate with my colleague after that had one of those condiment bars where you get your pickles and your jalapeno peppers out with the little plastic tongs. And then the night we grilled out at my house, there were kids all over the place, and they were all just running in and out, grabbing food between games of hide and seek, and then we were all eating vegetables and dip off of the same platter. And when you're with friends who are like family, that kind of sharing doesn't seem like any big deal. Or at least it didn't used to. But now this kind of communal eating seems really kind of absurd. Like, what were we thinking? That is so germy. The pickle bar at the barbecue place I now find especially cringy. And when you think about it, it is crazy how much our table habits have changed in just a few short weeks. But really, when I think about those last few meals that I got to enjoy with people I love, I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking really not even about the food, even though those were some pretty excellent meals. What I remember now is, well, that those places all kind of seem like sacred spaces now. They all have kind of a Last Supper vibe around them. And maybe after all of this is over, that gift of being together at a table will be a thing that we don't take for granted anymore. And when I think about the stories of Jesus, especially the stories involving food, which is really a lot of them, one of the greatest lessons of the gospel is this. When you're eating with Jesus, what is on the table is never as important as who's at the table. Matthew 9 through 13 says, as Jesus was walking along, he saw a man called Matthew sitting at the tax booth. And he said to him, follow me, and got up and followed him. And as he sat at dinner in the house, many tax collectors and sinners came and were sitting with him and his disciples. When the Pharisees saw this, they said to his disciples, why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners? But when he heard this, he said, those who are well have no need of a physician, but those who are sick. Go and learn what this means. I desire mercy, not sacrifice. For I have come to call not the righteous, but the sinners. So Jesus is eating with a crowd that scandalizes some other folks. His dinner companions are social pariahs, tax collectors and sinners. He's surrounded by people of dubious ethics or background, or maybe some think people who just didn't keep the customs and food laws, like people who mixed up their leftovers in the same box with their Gentile neighbors, or ate off of their brother's plate when they should have been social distancing. But if we know Jesus, we know that this is kind of his thing. He hangs out with the unacceptable and scandalizes the accepted. And when he sits at that table, it transforms something, not just in the lives of those people he's sitting with, but in the whole community. Because everybody who witnesses this gathering is also transformed by the act of mercy. And I wonder, when all this is over, if you were going to sit at the table with somebody scandalous, who would it be? Better yet, who might think that you are scandalous? Who might have to really step out of their comfort zone to be at the table with you? That's probably who you should get together with for your first dinner date when all this is over. Because, y'all, Jesus says, I desire mercy, not sacrifice. He isn't interested, never has been interested in religious observance that means nothing. He doesn't want symbolic acts of faith. He wants relationship capital. People who have been transformed by acts of compassion and mercy. People living their lives in close proximity, sharing everything. That table is where Jesus meets us and calls us and makes unlikely disciples. And someday we'll be able to pass dishes around and maybe even eat off the same plates again, family style, if we can stand it. But in the meantime, we are all connected, bound by a spirit of mercy that compels us to stretch and reach across our self-imposed boundaries, to reach over and pour the wine for somebody scandalous. For now, whether we sit at the same table or we are just together in spirit, we remember this gospel truth. When you're with Jesus, who's at the table is always more important than what's on the table. So eat up and be well.